Hi, welcome to another week and another episode of Photoshop Lightroom TV. I'm your host, Marek Mularczyk from sitetraining.co.uk, and this is episode 34 of Photoshop Lightroom TV. Photoshop Lightroom TV is our weekly show about anything Photoshop, Lightroom and Adobe Bridge. Okay, anything you want to know, anything new, all the news from Adobe, or interesting tips, tricks and tutorials. Okay, I've got some interesting great videos for you this week. I've got a tip of the week, I've got a couple of tutorials, and an interesting resource that I'm going to point you to, a great video about Photoshop. Well, let me start by talking about Photoshop Lightroom group. We have a group here in London called London Photoshop Lightroom Meetup Group, and we meet from time to time for some interesting workshops. Last month we had the first part of the Adobe Photoshop Lightroom Masterclass workshop, and this week we're hosting the second part here in central London. Okay. Come and join us for next series of workshops. We're going to have part 3 of Adobe Photoshop Lightroom Masterclass by the end of the month, and then in April we'll start running the Photoshop Masterclass as well, Photoshop workshops here in central London. So I hope to see you there. More details on the London Photoshop Lightroom Group Meetup page. You can see it somewhere here on the screen. And now let's jump into Lightroom for our first tutorial. And in this tutorial, what shall I show you? I'm going to show you a really interesting tool in Lightroom called Painter tool. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use Painter tool to apply some interesting effects to your images. So let's have a look at it. Here I'm inside Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the Painter tool to quickly apply certain options or certain features to images. I've got these images here that I've just imported, okay, and the Painter tool can be found here. Just click on it to activate it, and now here's a couple of things what do you want to paint with? You can paint with keywords, labels, flags, and blah blah blah, and so on. Let's say I want to apply some settings really quickly, so I'm going to paint with settings, and I'm going to select, let's see, black and white high contrast as an example. Okay, now the way the tool works is you just click, okay, and it changes into black and white. Or you can just click and drag, just like that, and you're all black and white. How cool is that? Click and drag, you're all black and white. And you can paint with anything you want. I can set to paint, let's say, with a flag. I would set the flag to rejected. I want to reject some images. I'm going to click on this one here, and let's see, maybe that one. I've got 2 similar images. Then I could scroll down. I may paint on some of these images here. I'm going to paint on this one here, and that one. Okay, so they all rejected quickly and easily. Now when you're done, you just click on done here, and that's how you exit the Painter tool. I'm going to have a look on the Painter tool once again. I'm going to select it here, and I'll show you another option, for example keywords, and then you can type in the keyword here. Okay. For example, I'm going to type in the keyword Johan, and I've got a couple of images with Johan here. Now let's start from the beginning. Here's Johan here. On these images, assigned keyword Johan, and these 2 as well. Looks like that's it. And that's how you use the Painter tool inside Lightroom to quickly apply some presets or settings to your images. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in Lightroom. Now I've got one more for you. This time, let's talk about Adobe Bridge and Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to show you how you can use Photoshop and Bridge to quickly take a number of images and export them to another file format, or resize them at the same time as well, using the image processor. Image processor runs in Photoshop, but you can launch it from Bridge as well. And then I'll show you a really interesting video that I found last week. Okay, so let's have a look on this tutorial in Adobe Bridge. I'm using Bridge CS5, but it works with Bridge CS4 as well. And I'll show you how to use image processor to take a bunch of images and export them to maybe different file formats, or resize them as well and assign them a color profile. So this will be Bridge. Let's jump into Bridge now. This time I'm inside Adobe Bridge, and I'm going to show you how to quickly export images to a different file format, resize them as well, using Adobe Bridge and Adobe Photoshop, using image processor that works between Bridge and Photoshop. I've got just a number of images in here, but the old raw files, the old CR2 files, raw files from the camera. And this is a good example because very often I get to work with photographers who say I still shoot RAW and JPEG because I don't want to spend time exporting or editing images inside Photoshop or Camera Raw. And my clients need to have JPEGs really quickly, so I do shoot both RAW and JPEG, and then I just send JPEGs to the client. Now here's what you can do. You can use image processor in Photoshop and Bridge to quickly export any number of images from any file format. So I'm going to select just a couple of these images, not all of them. So I've got 5 raw images selected. And in Bridge, I'll go to Tools, Photoshop, and Image Processor. And Image Processor will launch inside Photoshop, because Image Processor is actually part of Photoshop. The reason why I started in Bridge is because I could easily select the images. So the first step is done. Select the images to process files from Bridge only. Step number 2, select location to save processed images. I'm going to save them onto my desktop. Okay. File type. Do you want to save them as JPEG, PSD, or TIFF file? In this case, I'm going to use a JPEG. Quality of 8. This will be high quality. I'll check convert profile to sRGB if I want to either send them for print to a high-speed printer or put them on the web, because sRGB is the default color space or for the devices, for screens. I can also resize them. Now these images are raw images, so they're big, they're huge. I'm going to resize them to, let's say I want to put them online, for example on Facebook. So I'm going to make them 800 pixels. W&H, it's not going to make the images square. What it means is that Photoshop will take the longer side of the image and resize it to 800 pixels, whether it's a portrait or landscape. Okay, and then I'll just click Run, and Photoshop will do all the rest. When I click Run, Photoshop is going to open every single file, resize it, save it, and close it. And then open another file, resize it, save it, and close it. It may take a bit when you use raw images, so in here it takes a bit to open them, resize them, save them, and close them, but in just a moment, I think it's done, you'll end up with all the images. I'm going to minimize that, and as the JPEG folder, if I open it, I've got these images here. They're all JPEGs. Okay, and that's how you use image processor in Bridge and Photoshop to resize graphics quickly and easily. Okay, that's me again. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in Bridge. Once again, I'm Marek Mularczyk from sitetraining.co.uk, one of the UK's leading specialists in Adobe Certified training. We run courses in Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, Dreamweaver, Flash, and Fireworks as well, and Flash Catalyst. Now this time, I'll show you another tutorial in Bridge, this time in Bridge, not Bridge in Photoshop, but just Bridge. I'll show you how you can quickly apply presets to raw images using Adobe Bridge, how you can remove these presets if you don't like them, because remember it's raw, even without opening Adobe Camera Raw, all within Adobe Bridge CS5, all within the Bridge interface. Okay, so it's a great feature in Bridge. And there's one more thing for you. I found a really interesting video about Photoshop that shows what problems, what challenges the guys from Adobe were facing when preparing Photoshop CS5, especially for the Mac platform. So if you go to my blog, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk, you find a post about Photoshop CS5 with splash screen. Okay, So PhotoshopLightroomTV.co.uk, and you'll find it in there. Really interesting video. Have a look on it. But now let's jump to Adobe Bridge. Here I am inside Adobe Bridge once again, and this time I'm going to show you how we can use Adobe Bridge to quickly apply presets to raw images without opening them in Camera Raw. Now first, you need to create presets within Adobe Camera Raw. So I'm going to show you on one of the examples. I'm going to select one of the images and open it in Camera Raw, in here. Because I want to open it in Bridge, not in Photoshop, I'm going to right click on it and select Open in Camera Raw. This will open raw image in Adobe Camera Raw within Adobe Bridge. So this is the raw file. Okay. In here I've got presets, and there's a number of presets that I have created on some of my trainings, Photoshop trainings. Okay. And I can quickly apply a preset from here. Let's see, black and white. Very nice. Black and white. Interesting. Increased color, increased contrast, vignette 2010-09, or another vignette. Okay, I love the black and white, so I'm going to apply that and click done. This will apply this preset to the image within the bridge. Once you change the raw file, you will notice this icon here in Adobe Bridge, which basically tells you you have made some changes to the raw image, or you told the software to make some changes. Now let's say I want to turn some more images into black and white. Now this is really quick and easy within Adobe Bridge. I don't need to go back to Camera Raw if I remember the name of the preset. I'm going to select one of the images, let's say this one here for example. I'll right click on it and then scroll down to Develop Settings and select the name of the preset, in this case black white, and I will convert it into black and white. I'll do it the same for here. Right click, Develop Settings, black white. I can do it to any number of images. Now this is really good. Now what if you don't want it anymore? What if you want to take the image back to color? Well, really simple. You right click on the same image, scroll down to Develop Settings once again, and this time you choose Clear Settings. This will remove all the settings from the file and you back to the original, so it's still back in color. You can apply it to any number of images. I can select any number of images and scroll down. Oh no, I didn't want to open it. Let me just jump back to Bridge. You right click on it, Develop Settings, and let's say Vignette as an example. Okay, now it applies Vignette to these images, to all of them. These are the images with the vignettes. If I don't want them, I'll highlight all of these images, right click on any of the images, doesn't matter which one, scroll down to Develop Settings and then Clear Settings. That's how you use Adobe Bridge with Adobe Camera Raw to apply settings and manipulate the settings for the images. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Okay, this is me once again for the last time this week. I hope you enjoyed this video on PhotoshopLightroomTV.co.uk about Photoshop CS5. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial as well. Now I've got a tip of the week for you and then we're almost done. This tip of the week is in Lightroom. I recently had a question in my library module in Lightroom and I don't see one of the panels. This was the catalog panel, and catalog panel holds the quick collection. What happens to my catalog panel? How can I get it back? Now this is really quick and easy. Go to one of the panels inside Lightroom and right click on the empty area next to the panel name. And in the drop down menu that appears, you'll see the names of all the panels that are available. Make sure the panel you're looking for has a check mark next to it. If it doesn't, it means that's why you don't see it. Okay, and this was quick and easy. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I'm Marek Mularczyk from SciTraining.co.uk and this was Photoshop Lightroom Bridge. No, Photoshop Lightroom TV, episode 34. I hope to see you next week on episode 35. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.